I still remember the exact moment my world shattered. There we sat in that fancy restaurant celebrating our one-year anniversary when Lisa looked me straight in the eyes and said I slept with Trevor last month. I needed closure with my ex. Her words hit me like a freight train, but instead of exploding, something cold and calculating took over. As she rambled about emotional healing and moving forward together, I was already planning her exit from my life. The look on her face when I calmly asked for the check and told her to pack her things, priceless. Before I tell you how this all played out, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Hit subscribe if you've ever had that gut feeling someone wasn't being honest with you. I met Lisa at my friend Jake's housewarming party last spring. I had just turned 30 and was doing well as a business consultant for a tech firm in Seattle. The party was winding down when I noticed her laughing with a small group by the kitchen. She had this infectious smile that lit up her whole face, brown hair that fell just past her shoulders, and an energy that drew people to her. Jake introduced us, mentioning that Lisa worked as a marketing director for a local startup. We hit it off immediately, talking for hours about everything from hiking the Pacific Northwest trails to our shared love of true crime podcasts. By the end of the night, I had her number and a promise for dinner that weekend. Our first date was at a small Italian place downtown. She wore a blue dress that matched her eyes, and I remember thinking how easy it was to talk to her. No awkward silences, just flowing conversation and genuine laughter. We shared a bottle of wine and stayed until the restaurant closed. I kissed her goodnight at her door, already looking forward to seeing her again. The next few months were a whirlwind. We hiked Mount Rainier, spent weekends exploring coastal towns, and introduced each other to our friends and families. My parents adored her, especially my mom, who kept hinting about finally getting a daughter-in-law. Her parents were welcoming too, though her father was initially protective, until I won him over by helping fix their deck during a summer barbecue. After 8 months together, it made sense for Lisa to move into my house. I had purchased it 2 years earlier, a modern 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood. We spent a weekend painting the second bedroom that had been my home office, transforming it into a space that reflected her taste too. She brought warmth to my bachelor pad with plants, artwork, and colorful throw pillows that I would have never chosen, but somehow made the place feel more like home. Our routines meshed well together. I handled most of the cooking since she freely admitted burning water was her specialty. She was organized in ways I wasn't, keeping track of birthdays and social events. Weeknights often found us cooking together while sharing stories about our days, then curling up to watch a show before bed. Weekends were for adventures, whether hiking, wine tasting, or just exploring new neighborhoods in the city. The first time Trevor came up in conversation was about 3 months into our relationship. We were talking about past relationships over dinner, and she mentioned she had dated him for 3 years before breaking up about 8 months before we met. It ended badly, she explained, picking at her food. He was controlling, always checking my phone and questioning who I was with. When I finally stood up for myself, he made my life hell for months. Showing up at my workplace, calling at all hours, even confronting my friends. That sounds terrible, I said, reaching for her hand. Did you ever report him? She shook her head. Eventually, he gave up. Last I heard, he moved to Portland for a job. Honestly, I am completely over him. It just took a lot out of me. I was sympathetic. We had all had bad relationships, and hers sounded particularly draining. I appreciated her openness and didn't think much more about it. Trevor seemed firmly in her past, and I had no reason to see him as any kind of threat to our happiness. Looking back now, there were warning signs I ignored. About 6 months into our relationship, Lisa mentioned casually that Trevor had texted her out of the blue to check in. I told him I was happy with someone new and not to contact me again, she said. But I noticed she seemed on edge the rest of the evening. A few weeks later, I accidentally saw a notification from him pop up on her phone while she was in the shower. When I mentioned it later, she became defensive. "Are you monitoring my messages now? I cannot control who texts me, Jake." Her reaction seemed disproportionate to my casual question, but I backed off, not wanting to seem jealous or controlling like her ex had been. There were other small things, too. She changed her phone password, saying she needed more security for work emails. Sometimes she would be vague about her whereabouts, arriving home later than expected with explanations that didn't quite add up. Once my friend Megan mentioned seeing Lisa having an intense conversation with a tall guy at a coffee shop across town, but when I brought it up, Lisa said, Megan must have confused her with someone else. Still, I trusted her. Maybe that makes me naive, but I believed in what we had built together. As our one-year anniversary approached, I was excited about celebrating this milestone. I made reservations at Canlis, one of the most exclusive restaurants in Seattle, and spent weeks selecting the perfect gift, a white gold watch she had admired in a jewelry store window months earlier. The night before our anniversary, I remember lying in bed watching her get ready for sleep, thinking how lucky I was. I even opened my nightstand drawer to look at the small velvet box hidden there, not containing a ring, but a pair of sapphire earrings that matched the watch. I wasn't quite ready for a proposal, but I was beginning to think she might be the one. How quickly everything can change. Our anniversary fell on a Friday. I left work early to pick up flowers, her favorite lilies, and the wrapped gift box. At home, I showered and dressed in my best suit, the one Lisa always said made me look like a movie star. When she came home and saw me waiting with flowers, her smile seemed genuine, but there was something in her eyes, a nervousness I attributed to surprise. "Happy anniversary, beautiful," I said, handing her the lilies. She took them, burying her face in the blooms. "They are gorgeous. Let me put them in water and change quickly." While she got ready, I poured us each a glass of champagne. We toasted to 1 year together before heading out to the restaurant. The drive was pleasant. Lisa chatting about a successful marketing campaign she had just launched, though I noticed her checking her phone repeatedly. Canlis was stunning as always, perched on the hillside with panoramic views of Lake Union. The maitre d' led us to a secluded table by the window. Candles flickered between us as we ordered cocktails and appetizers. "I have something for you," I said, pulling out the long, thin box containing the watch. Her eyes widened when she opened it. "Jake, this is too much. It is beautiful." She slipped it onto her wrist, admiring how it caught the light. She reached into her purse and handed me a package inside, which was a vintage first edition of my favorite novel. It was thoughtful and perfect, making what came next all the more jarring. As our main courses arrived, I noticed Lisa becoming increasingly fidgety. She barely touched her salmon and kept taking long sips of wine. Finally, after the server refilled our glasses, she put her fork down. "Jake, I need to talk to you about something." The seriousness in her voice made me set down my own fork. "What is it?" She took a deep breath. "About 2 weeks ago, I ran into Trevor at that coffee shop near my office. He said he was back in Seattle permanently and wanted to meet for lunch to get closure on our relationship." My stomach tightened, but I stayed silent, waiting for her to continue. "I agreed to meet him because I thought it would help me fully move on. We had lunch, and it was fine at first, just catching up." She paused, her fingers nervously twisting her napkin. "But then we went back to his place to talk more privately, and things happened. Things happened." I repeated flatly. "We slept together." She rushed on before I could speak. "It didn't mean anything, Jake. I just needed to get him out of my system to find real closure." I realize now how much emotional baggage I was still carrying from that relationship. I felt as if all the air had been sucked from my lungs. My ears rang, and the restaurant seemed to fade away around us. In that moment, I saw with perfect clarity how many lies had led to this point. "So you're telling me," I said, my voice unnaturally calm, "that 2 weeks ago, while we were living together and planning this anniversary, you decided to sleep with your ex for closure?" She nodded, reaching for my hand, which I pulled away. "I know how it sounds, but it actually made me realize how much I love you. I am completely done with him now. It was a mistake, but one that helped me commit fully to our relationship." As she continued explaining her twisted logic, I felt a strange detachment, as if I were observing the scene from above. My brain rapidly reassessed moments from the past months. The late nights, the changed password, the defensiveness. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a pattern of deception. Was this the only time I interrupted her justifications? Her hesitation told me everything. Well, we met once more after that, but just to talk. I needed to make it clear it was really over. Another lie. I could see it in her eyes. While she continued her explanation, I signaled the waiter for the check. Some part of my brain registered surprise that my hand wasn't shaking as I handed over my credit card. "What are you doing, Lisa?" asked confusion, replacing the rehearsed remorse on her face. "Paying the bill." "I think this anniversary dinner is over. Jake, please. Can we at least talk about this? I am being honest with you, because I want us to have a clean slate moving forward." I laughed, a hollow sound that made a nearby diner glance our way. "A clean slate? Is that what you think this is?" The drive home was excruciating. Lisa alternated between tearful apologies and continued justifications. I kept my eyes on the road, responding minimally. Inside, my mind was racing, planning what needed to happen next. When we arrived home, I unlocked the door and walked straight to the living room, turning to face her. "Tell me everything," I said. "Every detail, every meeting. No more lies." Under my unwavering stare, the full truth emerged. It hadn't been just one or two meetings. Trevor had contacted her months ago, and they had been seeing each other secretly at least once a week for the past 3 months. The work events and girls' nights had often been covers for their meetings. "But I was going to end it for good," she insisted. "That is why I told you tonight. I want to commit to our relationship." I shook my head, a strange calm settling over me. "Pack your essential things tonight. You can come back for the rest while I am at work next week." Her face crumpled in shock. "What? You are kicking me out over this?" "Yes, Lisa. I am kicking you out because you have been cheating on me for months and lying to my face every day. This relationship is over. You cannot be serious," she said, her shock turning to anger. "Where am I supposed to go? That is not my problem anymore. Call Trevor or a hotel. You have 30 minutes to pack what you need for tonight." I expected tears, pleading promises to change. What I didn't expect was the rage that followed. Lisa transformed before my eyes, her carefully cultivated image of sweet reasonableness shattering. "This is my home too," she shouted. "You cannot just throw me out like garbage." "Actually, I can. The house is in my name. You have no legal right to be here if I ask you to leave." She switched tactics, her voice softening as tears filled her eyes. "Jake, baby, please. I made a terrible mistake, but we can work through this. People overcome infidelity all the time. I love you so much. These past 12 months have been the best of my life." I felt nothing as I watched her performance. The woman I thought I knew had never existed. 25 minutes left, Lisa. When emotional manipulation failed, she turned to threats. "If you do this, I will tell everyone you were abusive. I will ruin your reputation. Your family loves me. Your friends think I am amazing. Who do you think they will believe?" "Feel free to try," I replied, pulling out my phone. "But first I should mention that Washington is a one-party consent state for recordings." I played back the last minute of our conversation where she had just threatened to falsely accuse me of abuse. "I think I will keep recording from here on out. For my protection." Her face went pale. After that, she silently gathered clothes, toiletries, and personal items into a suitcase. I followed her through the house, ensuring she didn't take anything that wasn't hers or damage my property in spite. As she dragged her suitcase to the door, she made one last attempt. "You will regret this. No one just throws away a year like it meant nothing. You threw it away, Lisa, not me. The moment you decided that closure meant sleeping with your ex." I closed the door behind her and engaged the deadbolt, then immediately called a locksmith to come change the locks first thing in the morning. That night I slept in the guest room, unable to face our shared bed. The next few days were a blur of anger and pain. Lisa bombarded me with texts, calls, and emails ranging from tearful apologies to vicious insults. I documented everything but responded to nothing. When she showed up at the house, unannounced on Sunday, finding the locks changed, her screaming tirade was loud enough for neighbors to call the police. I calmly explained the situation to the officers, showing them texts proving she had somewhere else to stay and that the house was solely in my name. I arranged for her to collect her remaining belongings the following Saturday, while I was out with my brother there to supervise. What I didn't anticipate was how thoroughly she would try to destroy my reputation in the meantime. It started with mutual friends calling to ask if I was okay, having heard from Lisa that we had broken up because of my insecurities and controlling behavior. She crafted a narrative where she had innocently reconnected with an old friend, and I had overreacted with jealous accusations. By Tuesday, her carefully edited version of events had spread through our social circle. She posted cryptic social media updates about escaping toxic relationships and finding strength after emotional abuse. Mutual friends began taking sides, with many assuming there must be some truth to her claims. The most painful blow came when my sister called, concerned about what she had heard from Lisa directly. She came over crying yesterday, Jake. Said you threw her out in the middle of the night over a misunderstanding. That doesn't sound like you. I told my sister the unvarnished truth, including playing the recording of Lisa's threats. Her shock quickly turned to anger on my behalf. That manipulative little. I cannot believe I fell for it. My parents and closest friends stood firmly by me once they knew the facts. But Lisa's campaign continued. She contacted my boss, claiming concern about my mental state affecting my work. Fortunately, my professional reputation was solid enough to weather her insinuations. While sorting through our financial records, I discovered another layer of betrayal. Lisa had been using our joint account, which I had set up for household expenses, for personal purchases and cash withdrawals totaling over $3,000 in the past 2 months. Many withdrawals had been made near Trevor's apartment. She had literally been using my money to fund their affair. After consulting with an attorney, I sent Lisa a formal cease and desist letter regarding the harassment and defamation, including documentation of her financial misappropriation. I also reached out to a few key mutual friends with proof of her deceptions, not to be vindictive, but to protect my reputation from her smears. The climax came at our friend Megan's birthday, gathering 3 weeks after the breakup. I had considered skipping it, but refused to be driven from my own social circle. I arrived to find Lisa already there, playing the wounded victim role to perfection. When she saw me, she loudly asked if people felt safe with me present. I had come prepared. Calmly, I addressed the group. I have respected everyone's privacy by not sharing details of why Lisa and I broke up. However, since she continues to spread falsehoods, I feel I must defend myself. I played selected recordings of her threats and confessions, showed bank statements documenting her financial deceptions, and shared text message evidence of her ongoing contact with Trevor throughout our relationship. The room fell silent. Lisa's face contorted with rage and humiliation. She grabbed her purse and fled, but not before shouting, "You will never find anyone who loves you like I did." I watched her go, feeling no satisfaction, only relief that the truth was finally known. In the months that followed, I focused on rebuilding. First, I renovated the master bedroom and bathroom, removing every trace of Lisa's presence. New paint, new bedding, even new fixtures in the bathroom. The physical transformation of my space helped with the emotional cleansing I needed. I established new routines and rediscovered old passions I had neglected. Weekend hikes became solo adventures of self-discovery. I joined a local climbing gym and challenged myself physically, finding that the discipline and focus required helped quiet my churning thoughts. Friends who had initially distanced themselves during Lisa's smear campaign began to reach out again. Many apologized for doubting me. My friend Jake, who had introduced us, was particularly remorseful. "I should have seen through her," he said over beers one night. "There were signs even before she met you." The dramatic X stories always being the victim, the attention-seeking. I am sorry I brought that into your life. My family proved to be an incredible source of support. My sister invited me for dinner weekly, making sure I wasn't isolating myself. My parents never once said "I told you so," though my mother had expressed reservations about Lisa's sincerity early on. Surprisingly, some of Lisa's friends eventually reached out to me. Her former roommate, Amanda, called me about 2 months after our breakup. "I need to apologize," she said. "Lisa has a pattern of behavior that I have seen before. The victim narrative, the cheating she justifies as closure or finding herself. She did similar things in relationships before you. Work became a sanctuary. I threw myself into new projects, earning a promotion that had been in the works before the breakup. My colleagues respected my professionalism in keeping personal drama out of the workplace, especially after Lisa's attempted interference. Through therapy, I began to recognize the red flags I had missed, the inconsistencies in her stories, the subtle isolation from friends who might question her behavior, the financial dependency that had grown gradually. These insights didn't erase the pain, but helped me understand how to protect myself in the future. Lisa's attempts to contact me grew more desperate, then eventually tapered off. Through mutual acquaintances, I learned she had moved in with Trevor barely a month after our breakup, publicly declaring him her soulmate who had always been the one. The irony wasn't lost on me. 6 months later, I received a single text from a number I didn't recognize. It was Trevor of all people. "You were right about Lisa. She did the same thing to me with her new coworker that she did to you with me. Just thought you should know you dodged a bullet." I felt no satisfaction, only confirmation that the pattern continued. By then, Lisa had alienated most of our mutual friends with her dramatic relationship hopping and constant victim narratives. Her credibility was shot, her manipulation techniques exposed. A year after that devastating anniversary dinner, I can look back with clarity. The betrayal still stings when I think about it, but it no longer defines me. I recognize now that what hurt most wasn't losing Lisa, but losing the future I had imagined with the person I thought she was. I have learned to trust my instincts when something feels wrong, to verify rather than assume the best, to set boundaries early and enforce them consistently. Most importantly, I have learned that self-respect must come before attempting to salvage a relationship built on lies. Today, I am cautiously beginning to date again. I recently met Sarah, a pediatric nurse, with an authenticity that is refreshing after Lisa's performative personality. We are taking things slowly, building a foundation of honest communication. When I eventually shared my experience with Lisa, Sarah's response was telling, "Thank you for trusting me with that. I promise to always be honest with you, even when the truth is difficult." Sometimes the most painful experiences bring the most valuable lessons. In my case, I learned that real closure doesn't come from returning to what hurt you. It comes from honoring yourself enough to walk away from those who don't value your trust. It comes from rebuilding not just your external life, but your internal sense of worth. Have you ever had to confront a betrayal from someone you trusted completely? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story helped you recognize manipulation tactics or gave you strength to set boundaries, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that they deserve better than betrayal justified as closure. Thank you for listening to my journey from heartbreak to healing. And remember that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well.